American Westward Expansion, A Native American's Plight by Demarcus Ford. Let's begin. Why were Americans moving west? Some of the main ideas or objectives of Americans at the time were manifest destiny, the idea that it was a God-given right to move westward, and the gold rush. Also the idea that there was gold in opportunities to become rich westward in places like Nevada and California. While these opportunities were also seized by other groups of people such as Chinese migrants and others such as African Americans at the time, if they were able to. Other people didn't get a good side of the bargain, such as Native Americans, and that's who we're going to focus on in this presentation. The Treaty of Medicine Lodge. On the edge of starvation due to the dwindling buffalo population, 5,000 Native Americans from several tribes hoped to preserve their land and hunting grounds by moving onto reservations. 3 years after the treaty was law, poachers swarmed the region, killing the majority of the bison herds and forcing the Native Americans onto the reservations. As you might figure out towards the end of this presentation, this becomes a running theme where the Native Americans, due to some unforeseen circumstance, tries to work with the United States government to preserve themselves, whether it be their culture, their land, or anything that they hold dear. It'll work with them, but we usually get the short end of the stick by the U.S. government in the end. The Second Treaty of Fort Laramie, an agreement between the U.S. and Native Americans that the U.S. would abandon the Bozeman Trail and relinquish their claim to the Black Hills to the Lakota Sioux. Red Cloud, the chief of the Sioux, will later regret this decision to move his people. This regret comes from the Sioux Nation being able to previously roam their land and it take weeks to go through, as opposed to now they have a tiny reservation with Red Cloud having to ask the Secretary of the Interior for food for his people who are starving, even on this reservation that they thought would be better for them. But the second treaty of the Fort Laramie didn't come from nothing. It came about due to a conflict over the hunting grounds over Powder River Valley, occupied by the Che and the Sioux Native Americans. In this conflict was mostly sparked by Captain William Ferdinand, who would later die with all of his men due to his boasting about how he can walk into Sioux Native Americans' land with 80 men take it over. Battle of Little Bighorn. This is a bittersweet battle with an overwhelming victory for the Sioux Native Americans and others. Over 265 men of the 7th Cavalry led by Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer. Yeah, it's a mouthful. This was caused by a broken treaty due to the gold being found in Black Hills in 1874. And this battle, as you could imagine, was a massacre. Custer led his 265-man militia into a camping ground of over 8,000 Native Americans. So, as you can imagine, it was a massacre. Charles Indian School. As imperialistic intentions of whites towards Native Americans continued, schools began appearing to educate Native Americans to become more civilized, they say. These schools focused on the erasure of Native Americans' culture in the effort to, as they say, to kill the Indian and save the man. Charles Castle, Indian School led this example with the creation of the outing system, which was sending Native American students to live with white families during the summer vacations. This whole experience was to try and instill materialistic ideas on nomadic people. So it was like uh, a restructuring of their ideals. Dawes Act and the Indian Land Allowment. This divided up the reservation land of Native Americans into parcels of land based on their reservations, and it gave the government itself the right to sell these surplus land that wasn't owned by any individual Native American yet, or since they had it in a trust fund, it pretty much gave the government the authority to sell this land that belonged to the Native Americans, mind you, to white settlers. The aftermath of the Nez Perce War. Sorry for butchering all these names, but after the Crow and Sochin sided with the United States Army to get the opportunity to stay on their own land, many Native Americans who chose not to stay on their reservation were at risk of being hunted down. Chief Joseph and about 800 Native Americans decided to trek towards the sanctuary of Canada, but to no avail. On this 1,300-mile trek to freedom, in the last 50 miles from their freedom, they were stopped at Bear Paw Mountains by the army, and their chief Joseph had to surrender to save the rest of his tribe. A rise of the ghost dance. A nonviolent form of resistance birthed from a cult following of Native Americans who believed that by uniting together and doing the dance, that a cataclysmic event will occur, wiping out whites and returning the buffalo to the land. Whites fearing the empowerment of the ghost dance would cause an uprising, especially with rumors that the Native Americans started to believe that by wearing a white goat shirt made them immune to their bullets. So, in a preceded incident, practitioners of the ghost dance, along with Sitting Bull, were wiped out in a skirmish called the Massacre of Wounded Knee. This is my presentation on the difficulties had by Native Americans in the westward expansion of America. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.